How you doing, everybody? My name is Dean Olson. I am a songwriter, radio host, and producer from Orange County, California, and I'm really just an average guy who loves to make music. But when I get behind this microphone, I become the StrongWriter on the radio, helping songwriters and artists keep musically fit. And the way I love to do that is through faith and hope and encouragement, by taking in the stories and experiences told to me by my wonderful guests, and by learning from the best in the business and passing it along to you. And now it is another beautiful day for a fantastic show, and I really want to welcome you to it. And today's show is going to be kind of a treat for me and all of you as well, if you enjoy that kind of new wave electronic sound from the 1980s, but updated and interpreted for today. Nice fresh twist. And the man on the screen you're seeing right now is MATT EASTON, singer, guitarist with the Northern California band called The Jenny Thing. They have a new album that is called, well, it's indeed electrifying, and it's called American Canyon, set for release on June 18th, 2021. And that's about it. I just want to get to talking with this man. I want you to welcome everybody to the show, MATT EASTON.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dean. Happy to be
trying to hold on for dear life, trying to put that intro together. But all I wanted to do was try to get across the sort of hint that this has a nice little old school, new wave, electronic, almost K-rock. I don't know if you know that
Absolutely.
That's the stuff I kind of grew up on. And this is the sound that you're putting out for this album, 8 tracks, and it's really something special. And I enjoyed listening to it just before I came on with you. I just wanted to compliment you on producing this thing, and it's going to be exciting when it comes out.
Thanks so much. Yeah. We're happy to have completed it and to get it out there, and glad to get to talk to you about it, Dean.
Is this your thing? Are you is the Jenny Thing known for putting out this kind of music, or is this more of a new flavor that you've been working on?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's a new thing that we're putting out music after a long layoff. So yeah, the band is 4 great friends from long ago. And we did sort of the 90s indie band thing, vans and clubs and colleges and college radio. And we
there was a lot of that back then, right? A lot of 90s stuff.
That was the way. Yeah. So we were like rubbing shoulders with like Gin Blossoms and Juliana Hatfield and stuff like that.
Great.
And it was a good time. But yeah, as far as the departure, I would say we're reaching back further than where we started, really more to the music of our childhoods and our teen years. I think of a lot of the musical influences that we were hitting on this one, partly on purpose and partly just following our noses, but ended up in the New Order, Peter Gabriel, In Excess kind of edge of things. And I think we've just had a long passion for that. I mean, really, it's like Mother's Milk is that K-rock, when Depeche Mode, suddenly you realize that you weren't one of a dozen, you were one of thousands, and they suddenly are making movies about, sort of this, like, really it was LA into the West Coast. I think that stuff came on real strong.
Yeah. Well, that's good. You can't go wrong if that's the kind of stuff that you were like Mother's Milk, the stuff that you grew up on and were nourished with as musicians or lovers of just music in general, that you listened to on the radio or got records of. Because that's if that's in your soul, that's in your heart. How can you go wrong putting out this kind of stuff? They can. The listener is already going to pick up that you love this, and that there's an excitement. When you put out
I think it's strangely true, and I wouldn't have conceived of that. If the band had continuity, if we hadn't taken decade plus off in the middle, I don't think we would have come in with that freedom to just dig into what at first felt like a genre we didn't belong in, and on second thought, it was like I was in a synth pop cover band in high school. Like I was in a band that played OMD, When in Rome, Alphaville, like with sequencers and purely electronic.
A lot of mid 80s sound, right?
Yeah. So it was a strange initial discomfort followed by, oh, wow, this is really, this is what I was doing in my childhood bedroom, was like stringing together keyboards. I spent my early adult time trying to get, the right vintage acoustic guitar and sort of to go for that songwriter legitimacy, which I hope we pursued on this record, songwriter legitimacy, but not in the sort of clothing of what has become the kind of dyed in the wool purist songwriter, maybe even like look and feel. I still spend a lot of time in those worlds. I mean, a lot of this record was arranged and written on a, literally 60-year-old guitar, 100-year-old piano, which I'm going to play for you in a minute. So, we have our hand on all that traditional stuff as well.
Right.
But I do think just the heart and the teenage ears, or the teenage years, either one works, were really like lit up by the way we made this record and like how it came out.
Yeah. I like how you said songwriter legitimacy. That makes sense. And that you wrote it on, what I heard was you wrote some on Gibson guitars and things like that. But the 100-year-old piano, that sounds interesting. So it sounds like it wasn't like you four guys got in and, oh, hey, we got a hold of some sequencers and some synth instruments, and we're going to just, we're going to pretend that we're doing sort of a tribute to all those things. You just sort of followed a path that you probably felt good with.
Yeah. I think it was the process was not set. It was a search, Yeah,
it wasn't calculated. I think that's what I was going for.
Yeah. That's right. And, there's actually real drums on every single track. There usually are a couple people playing together, sometimes three of us at the same time.
Yeah.
And so even so, it's not like authentically, let's say, who would be a purist synth group? Maybe like Alphaville or Book of Love, where, it's almost like no real instruments were harmed in the making of this album.
Right.
We weren't like that. Probably more akin to In Excess, or even like mid-period Smashing Pumpkins, or New Order. I mean, New Order is always running some like almost like primitively played real instruments in and among their mixes. So I'd say that's where we ended up.
Yeah. So it wasn't like you ever heard the 12-inch track of Blue Monday? The drum track goes on probably for the first 4 minutes or something.
Yeah.
So but it isn't like that. It isn't so purely electronic sounding. There's personality behind all those drums,
Right. Yeah.
They really played. Yeah.
The 12-inch of Blue Monday, you need some strong stuff to really like meditate on a single bass drum for a long time, but
yeah,
we're definitely going for a more concise kind of like deliver the song type thing.
I grew up with those club mixes, and I understand the concept. You're trying to get people in. They're for DJs to sort of, segue into one record to the next, but you're trying to get people on the floor, right? With those
right.
with those club mixes, but that goes on forever. I used to say, when does the next instrument go ahead and phase it in quickly so we can get into it?
Right. But that's how they achieve the payoff, though, because when those octaves pop in finally, it's like so satisfying.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the most famous tracks. So, I'm not putting it down. It's just weird that's the one I think of when I think of electronic music, and how that just can just like, okay. My wife would not have the patience for that. Either change it or let's go to another track,
Right.
All right. Anyway, so enough of that stuff. Yeah, but it's nice that you were mentioning some of your, are those some of your influences or some of your favorite bands when you were talking about, Alphaville, New Order, In Excess, things like that. Yeah.
I mean, it's weird. It's like, I don't know life without them. I think they're almost like my, Rolling Stones or something like that.
Yeah.
And I love the Rolling Stones. It's just like I sort of found out about these things in the wrong order or something like that. Yeah. I mean, I think it's the pop culture connection. And then I think I do really like kind of the heart on your sleeve songwriting that was, and really, you could say over dramatic, songwriting that was in style then, like not realism, Really sort of this epic romantic type of writing. I think I really always liked that as a kid. There's a lot of writers that I would almost say I respect more, and yet I do look at like New Order, like I think In Excess, like arranging wise, they're like just super geniuses.
Yeah.
And one of the places or one of the touchstones of that for us in making this record, which is very not 90s or 2000s or current, is the idea that you kind of give the spotlight to one instrument at a time. It's not actually like full layering, which became more and more the case. Or there was that sort of gourmand indie rock, lots of layered guitars. You sort of carpet the whole thing, and then you compress the whole thing. And we love compression. There's a lot of compression on this record too, but the idea that you actually spotlight a guitar and it goes away, and you spotlight a keyboard and it goes away, and you spotlight a vocal and it goes away. And I think In Excess masterfully kind of directs the scenes almost visually. It's almost like, see this, now see that, now see the first again, now see the third thing. Like, it's really wonderful arrangement.
Oh, that's great. I wouldn't have picked up on that unless you explained it in that. What would be a sample of a song that you've done that on this album, for instance, that sort of that demonstrates that a little bit? Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Definitely Monsters of Mercy, which is towards the end.
I'm glad you picked that one. That's a fantastic song. I like that.
Oh man,
I like
thanks.
Monsters of Mercy. In fact, I keep going back to that one. It's a great one.
Oh, cool.
A little harder edge than the other ones, but definitely you can't stop listening to it.
That's cool. Great. That's great. Yeah. But that would be an example where I think you feel like it's time to hear this word. It's time for space. It's time for this hurtling, out of control, sort of flood of percussion and synths. Yeah. And then it's time for space, and you hear just these really succinct guitar parts that Sham, my writing partner, put in there. There's barely any guitar in it, and the guitar in it just says a lot. I think so. Those would be In Excess inspired, moments.
Yeah, is that right? Yeah,
I think.
Songwriting wise, what is the subject matter? What did you write that about?
Monsters of Mercy.
Monsters of Mercy. Yeah.
Right. Well, you're gonna have to bear with me, Dean, because I'm a little bit of a kook.
Okay.
And I'm
kooks are welcome. Don't worry.
Great. Well, then yeah. Hashtag kook begins. We're gonna talk a little weird here, but so yeah. Monsters of Mercy is it's supposed to talk about a place with these Frankenstein's monsters that are made of sinners and gods and held together by mercy. So you say the monsters of mercy, the monsters of mercy and sinners and gods.
Okay.
And that sets this sort of place that it's supposed to occur in. And that's it. That's just sort of like how I write. I like to sort of have a place or a backdrop. And then the verses move through a specific 4 phases. So the first phase is condemnation of others, and the second one is condemnation of self, and the third one is a redemption, and then the fourth one is actually kind of a rejection or even laughing at the redemption.
Wow.
And those are the 4 phases that it carries through.
Wow. Did you see that? It just went right over my head. No, that is not kook at all. It's more, that's actually pretty inspired, probably uniquely inspired, something that probably wouldn't come to most people who are writing a song. Then again, there was a lot of that stuff, those bands in the 80s that wrote stuff that I had no idea what they were talking about, but I just enjoyed the sound and the flavor of it and everything. So
yeah.
That's
and
good.
On that one, what was fun about it, believe it or not, is to come upon phrases that you can actually somehow feel very confident have not been played with before.
Right.
Like when I say usher in a fresh fidelity and you go, why did you just say that? Or the one that actually I've shared with a number of other people who are creatives and both musicians and visual artists, particularly those of us who at a young age got the fire to make things and to build things and to pursue the creative, and of course ran into all the difficulty that comes with that. But the line that I think is almost like a wink and a thumbs up and a salute to all the young creatives who grew up is, no one needs a grown prodigy. And that is the self-condemnation line, which for me is a very succinct, shared and redeemable pain among creatives, right? It's sort of like when you're a kid and you draw one great picture or you play one great song, you want to arrive. You want to be worthy forever. And also you stare that down for the rest of your life if you stay with it. And the hardest thing for all of us is the quitting and not quitting, you know, and that essentially those of us who stay with it quit many, many times and reclaim it many, many times.
Wow. Congratulations. I mean, that is, I had no idea that when I unpacked Monsters of Mercy, that's what I was going to see. That's pretty cool.
Power, venom, takes a minute just to bend them. Our body's got a shot for the victory, just usher in a fresh fidelity. Coward, Skinner, zipping, advanced beginner, overgrown child, are you kidding me? Well, no one needs a grown prodigy. Monsters of mercy and sinners and gods. 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 Sugar, sweet tears of heaven, go figure. People laughter in this king, come, you're killing me. To know it was to hate me, but you love me. Mercy, monster, I'm a shadow brother, I'm playing by the dumpster. In the shadow of the doubt, I've forgiven you. I'm now running, I'm living you. Monsters of mercy and sinners and gods. 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 Mercy and sinners and gods. Monsters of mercy and sinners and gods.
And I like that, you know, usher in fresh fidelity or whatever that line is you were saying, that's uniquely like I said, it's uniquely inspired, but at the same time I'm curious that if this stuff is like, let's assume that's only you writing this. Maybe you're writing these things with your
I'm writing the words. Yeah.
If you're writing the words, do you just let yourself go, or do you stop yourself and go like, what the hell am I talking about? I better just like forget that line. Let's try another one or something like that.
No, I mean,
you just let it flow out and then see what happens.
Yeah, you let it flow. Absolutely. I mean, when I see something weird, I try to one up it. I mean, it's
that's good.
And you know, it's funny. The album art we've been working on, there's a visual artist who I met while we were making the video. I think he was on the set to do like special effects corrections. So it's kind of thing where you go, oh, that car has a smudge on it. We're gonna fix it in post, right? This is kind of how this is how the world works now, right? You don't fix the car, you just fix the film. And so I met this guy, and he ended up getting pulled in by me after I was talking to him into creating concept art for the album, which became the art for the album. And we actually have this character, and I'd say it's like a shared character. I mean, he really built it, but we conceived of it as this nemesis sea urchin that actually, I'm gonna have to explain to you more at some point, but the point is that we created this character of this antagonistic sea urchin, and then it began to take these different forms and different colors. And when we would set up our meetings, we'd get on Zoom, as much as we are doing here today.
Yeah, we
would say, let's get weird. Let's go deep. And so I really think, I mean, when you're writing, first of all, you go up against the blank page, and I'm sure you're familiar with that.
Mm-hmm.
But once you've built the foundation and the backdrop, and you're on the hunt, I think no filter and exaggeration and push it harder, edit it tomorrow. I'm completely into, get unhinged when you're writing. I mean, that's the magic of writing. I mean, like writing The Simpsons, right? I mean, the Simpsons can do anything. The Simpsons can take you anywhere. People complain in movie making, right? That's what somebody can write in one sentence can take 2 weeks to shoot. Mm-hmm. But, let them complain. But if you're a writer, like, figure out how to write that one sentence that would take 2 weeks to shoot. Yeah. Like that to me is like the magic of words. And really, it's the magic of what you're getting the listener or the reader to do for you.
Yeah.
Right. That's
so interesting how you said The Simpsons can take you anywhere. That's something I've never considered, because The Simpsons have been around for 30, 40, how long have they been around? 30 years or more, right? 89, I guess. So they've been doing this stuff for a long time. They still, you always think they're going to stop, and then they renew again, and there's more. Yeah. And they usually they'll write and create their visual effects, their cartoon, the animated effects. It's usually within the same parameters. It's always the same look, right?
Right.
But yet they can take you, they don't do like what, say, Family Guy does. They're always going through flashbacks and different iterations.
Right.
But Simpsons kind of stays right in Springfield or wherever they want to take you that day. Yeah. And yet they seem to do it pretty fresh every time. Some will say they jumped the shark a long time ago, but I give them credit for staying in their lane and still making it interesting.
Yeah.
I think that's great when you're a band to do the same thing. You're not trying to transform and, put on weird outfits and, become a new band every time you want to change your album or something. So that's a great way of, I never had considered a Simpsons analogy when it comes to creating your styles and your songs.
Yeah.
When you come up against that blank page, I mean, a lot of times that inertia is the tough part,
Yeah.
Do you pretty much go, okay, we got a blank page, let's go ahead and just jump in head first? Is that what you do? Or
yeah, I mean, the main thing is to just work. I mean, like to not pre-write, don't never spend the morning thinking about writing when you're supposed to be writing. On the other hand,
that's almost energy that could be spent doing the rest of the actual writing, right?
Yeah, I mean, and so what are the actual, sort of antidotes? I mean, well, first of all, musicians are lucky because we do have, 3 or 4 different ways to putter, which sort of work with different parts of ourselves, right? So you don't have to just sit at a blank page. You could work in the computer and play with sounds.
Yeah.
Or you could sit at the piano and play someone else's music until it starts changing. You could go rewrite something that you've, already written. You could add to something. You could steal a part out of your own song. You could steal a part out of someone else's song and write around it and throw away their song at the end. So I think there are a lot of good little ways to get in the workshop. And really that is the thing. I mean, it's maybe a glib statement to say, like, don't not work. And yet keeping the flow going is everything. And I mean, I don't remember which artist who it was who said, or writer, somebody like never let your pen dry, right? Your pen is always working.
Yeah.
And then you just sort of catch the wave. And I think that can be pretty true. Now, one other trick I have though is I do visual art, and I'm not particularly good, and I'm not known for it in any way. And therefore I have way fewer hangups about it. I think one of the issues with writing songs is, and maybe this goes back to, no one wants to be a grown prodigy. Your first song was the best song you'd ever written at that time. And if you had a hot streak at some point early in your time writing, you may be averaging down as you write, and no longer averaging up, or you're just averaging average. And I think for me, flipping to visual art for just one morning or one weekend or whatever it is, I can really make without editing myself, and not judge myself. And for me, that momentum can then carry into music. That's
great. I like all that stuff that you were saying. That's sort of inspiring, to the audience, those who are songwriters watching you. These are good lessons to keep, because if you just keep moving, you don't have time to get depressed or start second guessing yourself and all that. Just keep creating, and keep your pen from getting dry.
Yeah.
To use those metaphors, like what happens when you run out of the ink? How do you go get the new ink? Sometimes you may have to just sort of create another way. And I like how you were saying that there's different workshops to go, because one of the most trite questions I try to avoid is how do you write a song? You know what I'm saying? Because everybody always has the same answer. Oh, it's a lot of different ways. Sometimes I write it in my head. Sometimes I'm over at the piano and I start plunking around and something comes to me,
Right.
Or I'm on the computer, or I might be in the car listening to something, and I get a light bulb. I don't know if any of that stuff happens to you, but that's sort of the take I'm getting from you. Excuse me.
Yeah. I mean, I often am rallying around a groove or just a couple chords, and then I sort of get the desire to put words into it. And then I actually have a few ways that I have kind of like holding tanks for words. So I might kind of get syllables or just sort of two phrases, and they're nonsense, and they'll be sort of chased down until they mean something. I might chase that meaning, or I might say it's generic enough that I'm going to port it in a new direction. And then I often go into longer form things that I've written on my phone or on my computer.
Yeah.
And then I have so those are two word sources. And then the third one is I have a very long list of some of them are joke song titles, and some of them are real song titles. And there are many of them. I mean, I might have like a couple hundred, and sitting down with that just to set the tone, to get, like I said before, like giving a backdrop to what you're doing, or a destination. I love that. I mean, it's almost like you can hang ornaments on that Christmas tree.
That's great.
And you can kind of keep doing that. And then you can go through an editing process, right? So, I mean, all of us, and I'm so glad there are songwriters on here, and hopefully other kinds of makers. I think it's all very related, but I think the irony of writer's block, particularly in songwriting, is so few words actually make the song in the end.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I mean, like you'd be lucky if there's like 200 words in a song, right? And like professional writers are knocking out like 2,000 words a day. So what's our problem? Well, the problem is it needs to sound good, feel good, work within the song, probably work within the expectations of ourselves or our identity, our self-identity, which I would try to break that down. I would say, write outside your genre, right outside of your normal voice as much as possible. But that is the irony, is that at the end we don't need very many words. And so that's where it's like that idea of just jam on it, just one up yourself, go further.
In fact, the fewer that you put in, the more brilliant it is, because you've conveyed a feeling or a message in so few words.
Yeah. And that's a great game. I mean, figuring out what you can make somebody feel in 6 words
Yeah.
is magic.
I was always inspired by, the Police, by Sting. Because when he would describe how he used to do stuff, he says that's the most challenging, the most exciting way to do it, because he loves stories. He loves long stories. The easiest thing is to take a concept and turn it into a book. The hard part is to take a book and turn it into a small little, a 3-minute song, rhyming couplets, and you only have a few to work with, and not everything's going to make it. I mean, I would suggest, people go online and they look for maybe some of the famous songwriters like David Bowie. Go find handwritten lyrics by David Bowie, and you'll see a lot of crossed out lines.
Yeah.
In there until he found the actual words he wanted to put in the song. So
yeah. No, I mean, and you think about that, it's like, yeah, probably you should triple write. I mean, I'm thinking about like what would the good proportion be? A healthy proportion.
Yeah.
If you only culled 1/3 of what you wrote because it's just right, and then re-edited it. Yeah. I mean, you can afford to with a song,
Yeah. Well, you were talking about joke songs and or not joke songs, joke titles. I think you were saying have you ever had a joke title or a song that was meant to be a joke that actually turned into something serious? Like the joke title actually turned into a real title.
I don't think that's happened very much. Although I do have an idea for one song based on a joke that I think is fun. The one that comes to mind is actually, there's like a UHF channel in the Bay Area here, and I don't even know if they still exist, but it's KTSF 26, a Chinese language channel, and their tagline was "Your window to the world." And I just sort of always got a kick out of that. It actually wrote a song called "Window to the World."
Nice.
And it's a sweet little song. It's kind of almost like a little waltz.
Oh, you went the distance. You saw something and you just sort of played with it, right?
Yeah. And I did definitely pick up the title ironically, and then wrote something that's pretty straight-faced and, earnest.
Well, that's interesting. I liked how you were. We started out with Monsters of Mercy, and I had no idea what I was getting into, and that's now I'm going to listen to it some more, and knowing the backstory on that one, that's pretty cool. One of the ones that looked like you're opening up with, and I guess you're getting noticed, or you're putting that as a single, I think, is Paper Angel. Is that right? We put out a couple, kind of a test single, and then one other sort of kickoff single, I think, kind of album season here, but Paper Angel has been like one of the big focuses. Yeah. Tell me about what inspired you to do that and pick that one as like sort of the breakout one.
Yeah. I think, it's the album opener, and it's really high energy, and I get a lot of visuals when I listen to it. I feel like it almost feels clubby. It feels like there's a lot coming at you. And there's that section, I don't know if you caught it, but there's a section where I'm kind of like shouting light.
Yeah.
I say the word light a bunch, light, you're a part of me. Light, with all honesty, or in all honesty, I say. And it feels like a live show. I think it has a sort of Carnival Barker feeling to it. And then the other thing that I think the band and I really like about it is it sounds just like the old us, and also like really transformed. Like it's almost like if we were turned into like giant robots, like we could have played that song with an acoustic guitar and an electric guitar, and sort of played it in that sort of early 90s style, that kind of Manchester backbeat, I don't know if you were following those kinds of bands at the time, but I think about, the Happy Mondays or the Stone Roses, or
Stone Roses, definitely. Yeah,
so something like that. We could have played it that way, and the main guitar part in it actually is almost a verbatim quote from a song on our second album, and so somehow it feels like it's this remake, exaggeration, and also this sort of announcement that like we're still us and we sound totally different, but somehow they're very related to each other.
Yeah.
The sound and the identity of the band.
Yeah, and the way that you're delivering the vocals, it harkens back a little bit to that sound that that you grew up with. So that's a nice thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel you now, you're a part of me, and I wished you well, in all honesty. Don't fail me now, every death you cheat. I hear the wishing wells echo with your glitter, glitter heartbeat. Paper angel, paper angel, 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 paper angel. Every day was a blaze, they all burned together. Glory forever, winter sun, lightless, listless towers. All through, all through. I can't tell what an angel says, my most beautiful friend. You're so drowning and so strong, crushing, calling for me. All that I want is to bore you to pieces again. Paper angel, paper angel, 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 paper angel. You're a part of me. In all honesty. You're a part of me. Lightless, listless towers, and lightless, listless people. Paper angel, paper angel, 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 paper angel.
And you can tell you're not trying to fake it. It's genuinely you guys. So
Yeah.
and all the guitars, you know, that song for one, Paper Angel. All the guitars are you in this thing?
You know, actually, no, I didn't play any guitar on that one. I might have played a guitar you can't hear, like during the
That's the one that you
bridge.
played. That's the one
Well-
that you don't hear is you.
You know what's funny is, I mean, classically, we go out and we say, I'm the rhythm guitarist, Sham's the lead guitarist, and there's a drummer and there's a bassist, and no one plays keyboards. I mean, ironically, we're out here with this sort of like electronic heavy album.
It's a synth pop electronic
Kind of
band
going-
with no.
Yeah, it's like who's the keyboard player? Well, but speak. Maybe we'll get to that. But on the guitars, I've looked at this record in retrospect, and I hardly played any guitar on it.
Kidding.
At all. And in fact, hardly anybody played any guitar on it. I mean, Sean played the majority of it, but it's guitars in the back seat. The irony of that to me is that where you do hear a guitar, what it's doing is really, really important.
Mm-hmm.
No one's hanging around strumming along with the hi-hat on anything here.
Okay.
If you're playing, you're playing, and if you're not, you're not.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think I did anything, at least that you can hear on Paper Angel on the guitar.
Okay,
I did play guitar.
what are your live shows usually when you're going out on stage? Are you in front of a mic with a guitar in your hand, or are you just up there by yourself? And
Yeah, no, the usual is for me to have a guitar.
So you're
Yeah.
doing the rhythm guitar, and that's easier to sing with a rhythm guitar than to concentrate on doing some concentrated licks on those things.
Right. Yeah.
So who's your other guitarist that you were just describing?
Yeah, so Sham Rao is the guitarist, and he is the other songwriter.
Okay.
So yeah, he and I have been working together for the life of the band. I mean, I would say our friendship, our acquaintanceship into friendship, into lifelong friends and musical partners, on and off, and now very on, is kind of the center of the genesis of the band. And then also I actually knew Mike, the drummer, since I was born, and I've known Aaron, the bassist, since I was in junior high.
Okay.
But as far as the songwriting unit at the center, that's me and Sham Rao. And
that's pretty nice when you all know each other from, you go way back. That hopefully that's a good thing. I mean,
Oh yeah, it's wonderful. I mean, it's one of life's riches to be able to find some of your people and to get to spend a lot of time with them. And I mean, certainly, it sounds like a real old person type of thing to say, perhaps, but I mean, you really do appreciate that stuff, both in retrospect and in the present, when you have those relationships. You might not have gotten it when you were 19, that these are important people in your life, right? But at this point, it's like I've only known Sham for 30 years and the other guys longer.
Yeah.
And it's really one of life's joys.
So did the origins of the band, did you officially start that when you met Shyam? Is that how it that it kind of worked? You decided to become a band then?
Yeah, we lived in the same huge boarding house in Berkeley. We were both at Cal Berkeley in the 90s, and we were already friends. And actually, I mean, to put it a certain way, he didn't strike me as a musician. No judgment of him. I was such a band room kid growing up, right? So I was the sort of kid who was in jazz band at 7 a.m., concert band at 10 a.m., symphonic band at 11 a.m.
Oh, you were hardcore. I didn't know that.
It was in the marching band after school, and
wow.
in the choir, and then in a musical, right? I mean, so that could all happen in one day. So when I got to Cal, I was kind of at this crossroads of like, am I going to really maintain this kind of jazz piano, identity, and it doesn't feel as cool anymore. I mean, I've come to really love jazz again. And actually, one of my kids is a very serious jazz musician, and actually so is the other one. But I realized he had an electric guitar, and it was sort of like, oh, well, that's interesting. And then we started making little demos, and our within 2 or 3, it was like, we can make a catchy tune. I can handle the vocals. I'm an English major. I was at the time, and already loved writing words. And I was a good pianist, but didn't have a good place for that in the Jenny thing in the early years. And really, he taught me a lot of guitar. I was a very fledgling guitarist at the time. So that was kind of the core. And it is funny, like we really figured that out. That isn't to say, bouts of writer's block or difficulty with creative process or what have you, that we all have. But we did figure out at like age 19, you better be putting the words together with the music, or you're not doing the thing. Like, you're either doing that or you're not.
Yeah.
You can be shopping for guitars and you're not doing it. You can be practicing too much and you're not doing it. You can be playing lots of shows and you're not doing it. And I think that our first, and in some ways our last love, is writing. That like making the demo and then making the master recording is like everything to us. Like just making the artifact. And when it can stand by itself and you don't have to stand with it when it just works, then that's the mountaintop, you know?
That's important. The songwriting element is very important, because how often are people going for those instrumental albums, you know, or to be just known as an album, a band that goes up there and just plays, and come on, when do we get to hear something with some words in it that we can sing along with or something?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even
and
yeah.
That's I mean, the folk song, I think, is in many ways what we're really talking about at its earlier form. And then that would go out to blues, and it would go to pop music, and probably hymns, many are based on drinking songs, you know, from German beer gardens and things like that, right? I mean, it's like, it's a portable chunk. It's the artifact. And I think that's what I find so fascinating about the folk song form.
Yeah, me too.
It's a capsule. It's like a novel. The album is similar. The film is similar. And it's a consumable, portable piece. It needs to be really concentrated. And like I said earlier, the magic is that you're having the listener do a fair bit of the work.
Yeah,
to make it work.
That's right. And I was just thinking about how you were saying that, you know, falling in and out of love with jazz is one thing, because that tends to be what the public goes through. Jazz gets a weird rap because, you know, a lot of the early, you know, purest forms of jazz from the 30s to the 50s, you know, Miles Davis and Sonny Rollins, all these different artists, and they're only playing, you know, Dave Brubeck, no words in any of these, right?
Right.
And yet they were very successful in their genre. So,
right.
But to the average listener who really wants, that's where you can marry some of the you know, the people who want to sing the standards like Sinatra and Nat King Cole, and
right,
and mixing blues and R&B elements like Ray Charles and James Brown and things like that. I don't know. I'm rambling a little bit, but that's an interesting thing when you can get that jazz element, but you still can find a way to break through and do something interesting with it.
Yeah,
that's when the 80s, when you talk about all this 80s stuff, that's when I really I gravitated a lot toward some of those jazzy artists. Sade, for instance, Simply Red.
Oh my gosh.
And you know,
Mick Hucknall.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, when you can get somebody with an interesting vocal to boot, you know.
Yeah.
Like Sade, or who else am I thinking? I should know, because that's the kind of stuff I listen to. But yeah, I think they called it more sophisticated pop is what they were going for.
Yeah,
they didn't want to be classified jazz, because they'd say,
right,
if we were a jazz band, we'd be doing a lot better than this.
Right.
You know?
That's right. Yeah. Sade, man. I'm a huge fan of hers.
Yeah.
And yeah, and really of theirs. I know that it's an actual project with multiple members who hold up the way that group works around her.
Exactly. Yeah, the saxophonist, you can't his name is escaping me, but yeah,
I mean, she's the face and she's the identity, but they've got a really deep thing going. I saw her on the Lovers Rock tour here at the Oakland Coliseum.
Mm-hmm.
And we were up nice and close. We got very good seats. My wife and I and a couple friends went, and it was one of the best shows I've seen. Really amazing sound, amazing atmosphere, just amazing. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know where I was going with that. I went down a path and I said,
we're talking jazz, but
talking jazz. But I think it was, the fact that you were sharing that you were a band kid. And I said, that was, when I said you were hardcore, I mean, that's a lot of different elements of different classes that you were going to. And so that really helped you become well-rounded. I mean, when you broke, at least you had that under your belt. Now you have some good muscle memory, I guess, from all that, right?
Yeah, I think what I have is theory. I think that's what survived.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of chops. And I'm not really a trained singer.
Yeah.
So, I don't really get to play in those areas, nor do I, I'm both invited and I don't know that I care to, but certainly theory remains a big part of what I carry on from that time. And man, I'd also say there are times in just regular life where you look back on the life skills of, if you go to hundreds of rehearsals as a kid and you watch groups of people get things done well and compromise and listen to, a reasonable authority figure to get to a goal and, collaborate with people and find your place in the puzzle. That's some pretty good life's lessons right there for, organizational behavior or, just getting along in the world. There's a lot of transferable stuff,
Yeah.
So I feel fortunate that I had that growing up.
Yeah, that is fortunate. Good going. That you got a title track. So you named the album American Canyon. Why would that be? I know there's an American Canyon up north where when I go visit my son, that's where we go into town to shop in American Canyon.
Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, that's not too far from here, actually. Probably just 20 miles.
Yeah, my kid's in Vallejo, so we just sort of go. We have to go around the bend, and that's where all the shops are and everything. So
yeah, of course, right. So yeah, it's named after that place, sort of.
Really?
So,
okay. So it wasn't that far off. I thought I was insulting you by saying, "Oh no, that's not the name of the."
No. You kind of nailed it, but I also think that the typical person who sees it says that's not a real place. It almost sounds like what a foreign film would call Grand Canyon, or if you were watching a Pixar movie and they went to the Grand Canyon, they called it the American Canyon. Right? It feels like somehow an adaptation of reality.
Yeah, I'm following you.
That's something I really like about it. But yeah, so simple story where it popped up. Sham lives in Davis, California, which is north, 45 minutes or an hour. And the way we typically work is he comes down here Saturday or Sunday morning, and we have coffee, sit at the table, make a plan, chat. And then we, after 30, 40 minutes of that, we get down to work and we work for maybe 3 hours and we have lunch and maybe work some more, and that's it. And then we split off the files onto our respective computers, and we go off and we start kind of editing and iterating variations, and then we sort of share them with each other, and then we do it again in a couple weeks.
That's great. Yeah,
that's the usual way. That's how this record was made. But he came down and he comes to my door and getting the coffee out, and he goes, that place American Canyon? That is such a weird name. That's just so kind of wacky. There's a place called American Canyon, and then I started doing some art around it. But that same day, we also wrote the song American Canyon, really kind of all at once. It was just sort of like, it was probably like, 45 minutes. We were like, sort of the groove and the key and the way the beat turned over and the chorus and one verse. Like we kind of had that very, very fast. And we're like, okay, it's American Canyon. We often name things dumb things like, we have a song called Drum Capture. Well, it's named that because I have a template in my computer that I use to like record drums. We have a song called Drum Capture. So that's a dumb name. It happens.
I understand. Yeah.
So we call it American Canyon. And then I pulled that into the lyric and started in my mind calling it the Battle of American Canyon. So that might be the full name of the album, and the full name of the song is the Battle of American Canyon. And then what else happened? Getting it to be the name of the album was a bit of a process. So we have the song called American Canyon. It has images of violence, defeat, and kind of victory in defeat, or some sort of like, there's sort of like a warping of like, what does it mean to win and lose? What does it mean to really even kill and be killed is supposed to be in the song American Canyon. And I pulled a thrown away verse from a song called All in My Head. And I wrote American Canyon around that pulled out, thrown away verse. So those two have kind of the same DNA. And that's where the album title actually came from, the working album title, which was Guns and Drums. So All in My Head gave us Guns and Drums versus American Canyon. And those were both kind of in play. And we kept pulling back towards American Canyon, and it was actually going into the desert to shoot the video for the song American Canyon. and being in that place, I mean, we were there like 3 days, but it was during COVID. So it felt like amazing, right? It felt sort of like we were on another planet. And we felt like, oh, this idea of a place that's fictional, that feels like the American West, but has this like military and techno and underground feel to it, is what we're beginning to sense. And so, I mean, I think before we even left the video shoot, we're like, the record is called American Canyon. It's a place, and it's where the action of the record will occur. And there was just so much more power in that than saying it's about guns and drums. And I've got a whole thing about guns and drums and how I think that's really fascinating. But the problem with it is it's just noun and noun, right? You just like a noun and another noun and you're done.
Yeah.
Whereas American Canyon just feels like infinite. You could just keep packing pivotal points and characters and occurrences into this place. And that's what made it so compelling for us.
That's nice. And you just kept going with it. Like you said, what was the original thing that you were thinking of? The Battle of American Canyon, or what was it?
Yeah, I've always thought about that as being the full name, although we've not written it anywhere. Because the song is about war. Yeah. And several of the songs are about violence. But
you kept that in your head, so that's sort of the baseline for how you wanted to create the rest of the, keep that theme going there in your head, and then it becomes that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I like the way it was, and then on another level, the way you created it sounded. It just sounds very cool. I hate to be so facile about the whole thing, but it's the thing I'm picking up on is that plucking bass that's going on there.
Yeah.
That's a little bit another homage to other. I can't quite. I think of Blancmange, one of those groups from the 80s. Yeah, with that.
Absolutely.
You ever heard that song Blind Vision? It was like there's sort of that pounding, plucking bass going on in as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, that's a very good reference. And I think we were a bit like, is this sort of in Peter Gabriel, Duran Duran or something like what exactly do you call this? Certainly a little bit of Nine Inch Nails, I think, emerged, which is like very not like us to pursue. And I feel actually I'm almost like, oh, that's how he wrote, that Nine Inch Nails song. Like what was he thinking? And it's almost like guitarless Led Zeppelin. That's what we were. I mean, if you watched what we were doing that day, it was sort of like, let's make Led Zeppelin, except you can't touch a guitar, and there's no guitar on it. There's no guitar. There's a bass, of course. You caught that. And it's an interesting bass that Sham did a treatment on. It's actually got a reverb and it's compressed. So there's this weird like bloom where you hear the attack and then the reverb gets louder, which is actually the opposite of what you expect reverb to do naturally in an acoustic space.
Right. It has presence. It doesn't muddy in the mix there. So
it's like it punches and then it blossoms every time it fires off. And that's really interesting. But the Blancmange one that I hadn't listened to him a long time, but another person said that and I put that on and I was like, oh yeah, like good ears. You caught that.
The vines that climb to tower peaks, schools of snakes and clouds of bees, the words that murk and ink that bleeds, rewrite decades and centuries. The arches fall around me, still I am lifted up. When even hope rings empty, now there is only love. The arches fall around me, still I am lifted up. When even hope rings empty, now there is only love. When captors kiss the shattered lips, scattered rubble amethyst falls like a fist
You have a song called Lightfield, which is probably, I think that was one of the first ones that you started working on or
Yeah,
completed.
and I'm gonna play that for you today.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
That'd be
gonna
great.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just when I listened to the recording anyway, that's another one that sort of gave me flavor of, how about, do you know the group Wire Train? That was, that one that sort of has elements of that too. And that's a good thing. I'm not saying that you're, I always have to straddle that line and make sure that I'm that I'm giving you a compliment, and I'm not saying
absolutely.
like, oh, you sound too much like this one or the. But no, that's great because you're taking something that's originally yours and you're giving a little bit of a comfort flavor to the listener. They said, oh yeah, I love that. It's almost like that favor. I'm trying to think of a good analogy, but it's like maybe that restaurant or that place that you would that little food joint that you might have gone to as a kid and it's no longer available anywhere, but somebody figured out a way to recreate that place, and you want to keep going there because they have the food that you like, or it gives you the right atmosphere. That's sort of what I get here, because you're putting together something that's pretty contemporary and sounds current, but at the same time it feels like your childhood almost, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you nailed it. That's
I'm glad I nailed it, because it was just sort of coming off the top of my head as I'm trying to explain it.
Yeah. No, it's and I think it's the freedom of having some distance, not only from the music of the past, but even ourselves of the past is we're really like, we're not tied to anything. And you really can follow your heart at that point, and I think that's making the most of it, when you go out and Wire Train. I think of like Red Rockers a little bit, like China.
Yeah. In fact, that's in the same family. I think some of those Red Rocker guys formed that group, Wire Train. So if you look that up, I'm pretty sure that's true.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, Red Rockers, China.
Yeah. That's it.
There we go.
Yeah. No, I think that
love this. I love this trip down memory lane that nobody's other people going like, what?
Yeah, is everyone still with us? Yeah.
You blow out the window. Place we can go. The light goes down. The wind comes up. And the lemon trees outside still winter at our will to survive.
But I do think the idea that you know yourself and you know how to be yourself and you know how to dip into these things, because obviously we don't want to be anybody. You know what I mean? It's like at this point also there's the freedom of like there's very few scenes left, right? You're not looking for credibility anywhere at this point. If anyone's protecting their credibility at this point, it's not us.
Good.
but it's also having the trust in yourself that if you show up and also do your thing, right? I mean, we're not going to give you those synths and then not do our thing. We're going to do both. It's like trusting your own fingerprints. It's like trusting your own identity. And if you crank it up, you're going to show up. I mean, and the other thing is you can aim for one thing, and because of your limitations or your capabilities, you'll go past it or short of it or to the left of it, and you'll just get something new. And that's so inspiring most of the time, to just sort of end up in a place out in another quadrant you didn't intend to be.
Yeah.
And actually, American Canyon, I think, is a good example of that. So is Monsters of Mercy, where sonically it was the opposite of arranging a song for a band. It was chasing an arrangement into a direction that the song took us, right? It wasn't, we've got one of those, and two of those, and we better figure out how to use them all at the same time.
Yeah.
Because that's what we've all done in our bar bands and in the earlier versions of our bands. This was completely additive. It's like, does it need one more thing? What is that thing? You know, and placing it. And really in both of those cases, and very much in the case of Monsters of Mercy, being very aggressive with the audio. I mean, to the point of being abusive with the audio. And we had a fabulous mix engineer, this guy, Chris Hughes in Long Beach, who mixed the album completely for us remotely. I've met him a couple times. Once in the middle of the mix, we hung out down there, and but not in a studio. We just had coffee. But it really gave us this confidence as the producers and the engineers, because we self-produced the whole thing. We did all of the drum recording here in this house and all the instruments here, and I did the vocals downstairs, and we could really like spaz out on the way that we were making audio. And I can be a little bit of an audiophile, but I tried to turn that off until very late in the process.
Right.
Just enough to bridge the gap over to Chris so that he could make a cohesive mix, or at least an exciting mix, right? Even if it was a little bit wrong, as long as it was exciting, and it had some integrity to it, that was good enough. So that's part of the process here too, is just going a little nuts with the audio.
Great. Oh man, I hope you don't mind me just letting you talk, because this is every once in a while I jump in with a little bit of, hey, listen to me, but because
no. Take me where you want to go, man.
Yeah, no, this is basically what it is. It's just a little give and take, but I don't want to ever like overpower you with my boring details. But every once in a while I get a thought and I want to just get it out and see if it works with you, and I want to see if that people will understand. It's not really the trick. The dirty secret almost is that this isn't exactly a songwriting show, but it's more of like the heart and soul of what you love to create.
Yeah.
And what happens if something weird happens, like a pandemic, for instance, and the rug is pulled out. What do you do then? So did you have any problems adjusting, all four of you guys, when that happened?
Well, I'd say not really. This record, the active work on it was done in 2018 and 2020.
So you just do business as usual, creating something good, and then you already had something to work on.
Yeah, and then as far as the actual COVID impact, we only had to do mostly mix work and vocal work. So I was working solo on that. You could say the record was 80% done, but 18% of the remaining 20 was me singing. So that was good. That was good fortune. And then of course it was remote mixed, and it was remote mastered, although the mastering guy's about a mile and a half from me. But we never got in the same room. It was really the two places that we actually had to deal with, protocol was recording some bits of Waiting for the Knife, which was the 8th song. And it was the last song that we wrote. It's the last song on the album, and it's the last song we wrote. And those two really go together. It's the song that makes the album, in my mind, a tragedy. We had Mike and Aaron come through here. Actually, no, I'm wrong. Aaron, we did remotely. Mike came through here and we sat in the backyard, and I played him the demo, and I think even the multi-track on a little Bose speaker, and we sat at two tables, and he had the speaker and I had the computer, and I sort of played the music to him, and we took some notes on the kinds of rhythms that we were going to try. And then we ran downstairs here, and I think we opened the doors and windows, and probably spent 25 minutes capturing some drum parts, and he packed up his stuff and left. And we that was that. And then making the video was right in the heart of really the COVID heights, the beginning of the run up into the holidays here. So we made that in November 2020, and we had up to 20 people on set. It was a pretty elaborate video. I can't wait to show it.
Yeah.
It's going to come out in early June. after the American Canyon single, there's going to be the American Canyon video, and then the album. But so I'm thinking June 1st, June 5th, something like that for the video. But when we shot that, we actually had, an on-set medic, PPE, taking temperatures. We were outdoors, so there wasn't too much concern. But shared bathrooms and disinfecting and all this kind of stuff, and we had to take care of that. So that was really the big, obviously not insurmountable, but like that was a real undertaking to go out and do that during COVID and not be negligent about the way we did it.
It's a little bit of an obstacle. It gets in the way, but it sounds like you knew how to, hey, this is how we do it before all this happened. We can figure out a way to do it now.
Yeah, and we had a fabulous crew. There's this guy, Ramesh Nicholas Iyer, who's the director. He pulled in a lot of great people. COVID made it so that some people, just a fraction of people, were less comfortable, but on the whole, we had a lot of people whose productions were on hold. And I think we got an incredible caliber of, on-camera talent, incredible caliber, certainly, of the crew, and like the photography crew. Really awesome. So it was one of those sort of silver lining things, I actually think.
What were your other, you had some other albums before this. How many did you create before this one?
Yeah, this is our 4th album.
Okay. So when did you create the first one? How far back do you go when recording stuff?
All right. Yeah. You got to turn on the Wayback Machine for this, Dean.
Okay.
The first record was made in 91.
Okay.
And our second record, I think, was made in 94.
Oh, good. So you could issue a 30th anniversary edition of your first one, whatever that is, right?
Yeah. Or maybe we've missed it. I don't know.
No, this is close to it.
No, you're right. We're right on time. And then our third one in I think we put it out in 2000.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is, a very improbable record for us to make. And I think we feel really fortunate that, we ended up back all in the Bay Area after many years. Sean was actually in New York City until 2015-ish. He and his family moved out here, and we got right back in a groove. I mean, that is the magic. I mean, in the end, if there's like sort of one of the great fortunes of my life is I have this really compatible writing partner.
Yeah.
And
that is a great thing. Yeah.
We've done things in different eras on different instruments with different techniques and different outcomes, and it works. So, it really feels like, because we were able to kind of rejuvenate that, it feels like, oh, there can be, this is part 4, but it's like, there could be a part 5, there could be a part 6. Because we feel really untethered by style, instrument, seriousness. I'm going to pull towards some seriousness in the way that I think about creativity and the story behind what I'm making. But I think there's playfulness on this record, and we've done some other stuff I think that's even more playful. Some stuff that's even more techno. We've got a couple of things in our back pocket that are kind of very guitar driven,
Yeah.
2 people playing guitar and live bass and kind of sludgy. And but what I think that has in common with what we did on American Canyon is it's not what we were doing when we were 20.
Yeah.
We're untethered. I think that's, I've pulled that word out here. I don't think I've said it so far, but it's a good feeling, because we know how to make stuff. I mean, I feel like and maybe that's the thing to the listeners too. It's like, trust your ability to make stuff. Don't worry about what it is before you make it.
Yeah.
Worry about what it is after you've made it.
I want you to forgive me if it sounds sappy or
I love
or sugary, but it's when you have something like that, when you got chemistry with somebody that you're creating with, and it's worked for all these years, that is such a blessing, and that's magic. I think
absolutely.
That, I have a buddy that that I still keep, we will be out of touch for months, and yet I have all the confidence in the world that if we got together tomorrow and decided to get together and create some more stuff, we'd be right back in that groove, and it would take us like 20 minutes and we'd be back into it, you know?
Yeah. You just pick it right up. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's,
so you treat show them like gold, I think. Try not to get into a fight.
Oh yeah. No, I think we've had most of our push and pull, mainly as young men, under pressure or feeling as though we had to achieve something, or what we were doing had to fit in with someone else's concept or whatever. And I mean, frankly, the time that we sort of blew up that it was on our way out the door, so to speak, the first time, but we went on Star Search, and it was not a smart thing for a Berkeley band with credibility to do.
Oh gosh.
And we had to insist on playing live, and they were like, okay, well, you can do live vocals. Can you do pre-recorded band? And we're like, no, if you're going to have us, we're going to play live. And we went through all that, and we had a super good time. I mean, it was a strange delight to go do this TV thing. And we were in Disney World, so it was just kind of a kick. And a lot of downtime, just sort of wandering around, going to the parks with our day passes and things. But my point was, we unhooked at that point late in the game. This is probably like 1995 or something. Late in the game, on our first time out, we just unhooked from those expectations and those identities. And I like to think that we remembered that, maybe just subconsciously, when we went to make this record. We didn't refer to anything anybody was doing today. We didn't look at what the next kid was putting on their essay, or what radio likes now, or we didn't feel like we needed continuity with our old selves either, even though the continuity comes from you just being you.
That sounds important to me. I mean, not everybody they don't have to subscribe to the way you did it, but that seems like a good thing. Just keep true to yourself, and others will follow you. Don't worry about trying to follow the crowd, because the crowd will come to you if they know that you're sincere.
Right. Well, or not. And
or not. That's true.
And when
that's the risk you take, though, right?
Yeah. What's the risk that's built in.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is a pretty common thing. I mean, you do have to do it for yourself. You do have to do it because it articulates something surprising or joyful or painful or whatever it is for you. You have to do it for you. Yeah. And I think that the sort of flip side of that is that authenticity does often translate better to others.
That's great. Yeah. Oh, that's great. The Star Search was such a dated reference nowadays, doesn't it seem that way?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of youngsters that'll do the podcast. It's mostly people my age and above for that thing. But for those who may not remember, that Star Search, it seems so long ago, but it's probably more like America's Got Talent. It was like a variety of different things. It wasn't just singing like American Idol, where it's just all singers and musicians getting up there. But
right. There were kid singers, there were spokesmodels, there were comedians, I think.
Right. Yeah. A lot of comedians would try to get on. In fact, I think that was, I knew a couple of singers that came out of there, but they didn't seem to create the stars like American Idol did. Because when that thing came out, I was surprised how many people launched their careers off that. I would have never have bet that. That this is all they're just going to be. They'll be good for the time and they'll win something, but you'll never hear from them again.
Right.
That wasn't the case.
They figured out how to tie into the industry, and that the judges' careers were also kind of on the flywheel of all that. Yeah, they figured it out.
So what you were saying that probably wasn't the right fit for you doing the Star Search, or was might have been a mistake to do that?
No, I don't see it as a mistake at all. We were.
You tried. I
believe we'd started our third record at that point, but we knew that we didn't have a lot further to run in that time in our lives and in that form. And it was really not a strategic error, maybe, or I don't know how to put it, but I guess the point is, it was fun. It just wasn't on brand. It was an unself-conscious, what the heck kind of moment. Yeah. I like to think that the lesson learned is, do your thing, have fun.
Yeah.
But always for me, it's the song, and it's the world the song occurs in, and it's the world of the song that the characters or that I occur in. And that's the magic, that's the art form, really. I mean,
Yeah.
and then, good or bad, part of the art form is that it is pop music. It's meant to be consumed. So you do always have to deal with the well, I'd like it to be heard. I'd like to pass it around. I want to get some response and all of that, right? And that's
Yeah.
kind of the message in a bottle, out to the world is you and your little song, to 10 people or 50 people or 500 people or 50,000 people. It's just interactive, right? It's not multi-directional interactive, but it's just a little bit interactive to send the message, send the ping out to the world.
I'm glad that that's working out for you guys. I really do. How well known are you in Berkeley? Are you sort of a fixture up there?
I would say we are not a fixture. We were a fixture. There was a time when we were selling the most independent records out of the local record store. And
that's a good thing. That's a nice moment to think about. I like that.
Yeah, no, that was great. We opened for a lot of national acts during that time. People would call us, either ubiquitous and slightly annoying, or they would say we're the biggest band in Berkeley or the East Bay. There was a time where we were called that. But we're at this point, what are we? Our new incarnation, I think, is almost like an art lab for songs, and I'm hoping even concepts. We've got this video coming. I've met a number of people through that. I'm actually talking to a producer about scoring a film at the end of the year. So there are those things. And in those conversations too, I've got bigger or further out pipe dreams about kind of narrative content. This album actually has sort of an undercurrent of a kind of almost a saga underneath it. And I think about what I might do with those concepts. I have an idea for a movie, actually a horror movie about children and animals.
Good grief.
And that's and I mean,
always creating. I like this about
bloody.
you. I really do.
Bloody,
yeah.
So yeah, we're just going to keep building stuff. I think collaboration is something that we're moving towards. There's another video idea, another video maker who I'm going to talk to, and that might go on to another record. That might be the reload and come back with the next concept type of thing. And yeah.
Oh, great. Well, here's the obvious question I could have asked you right off the bat, but why the Jenny thing? Why did you come up with that? And was it right from the start you called yourselves that?
Yeah, we did call ourselves that right from the start. It was just me and Sham walking down Telegraph Avenue in Berkeley. And I think that we were just sort of trading gossip about, this guy, this girl, what's going on. And I believe we'd gotten to our second or third instance of saying, oh, that was the thing with Jenny. Oh yeah, that was the Jenny thing. And we began to sort of laugh at this idea of there are multiple Jenny things. I mean, there are a lot of Jennies in my generation, right? So it's really just a statistical thing. So we ended up with that, and that's our name now.
Well, it's carried you through all this time. That's another one of those sort of accidental happenings, right?
Yeah. No, and we just call each other that now. So
good. Now I know, and that way I can, if I ever have to explain that, well, what does that mean, Jenny thing? Who's Jenny? Or
Yeah, the cute version of it was actually, so Martha Quinn was the music host on the year we were on Star Search. She usually wasn't, but that year they were trying to punch it up, and she was off of MTV.
Yeah.
Between things. So she hosted the stage, and her cue card, and she said it, was something along the lines of, every guy has had a thing for a girl named Jenny. I know my high school boyfriend did. that was the line. So,
that sounds almost verbatim. You explained it so
well,
you narrated it just like I think that Martha Quinn would have done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we are back, and Matt is in the same room right now, but he has just, changed positions, and we get to see some of his awesome instrumentation right here. How you doing, Matt? What are you in front of right now? Because this is interesting for me to see. Lots of great lights and I got to hear some of the sounds before everybody else did. So explain what you got in front of you here, sir.
Yeah, we got the full light show going. So I'm going to be operating a drum machine, a TR-8, which claims to sound like everyone's favorite beatboxes from the 80s. And then I've got this cool Pro 3 from Sequential. And actually, a fun tidbit on this one. My friend Bob actually built the software and hardware behind oscillator number 3 on the Sequential Pro 3. I know the guy. Pretty cool. He actually helped make our first... he helped make our second and third records, the guy that did that. So that's kind of neat.
So something that you're comfortable with. You like it. It's like your old friend there.
Well, actually, I've only had this for a couple months. But
there you go. It's your old friend from a couple months. This is
very modern, but my old friend, that's what he's doing now. He's a genius. And then the big daddy is the 1916 Steinway. This is not high tech. This is but this is as good as pianos were ever made.
Okay. Yeah, that is interesting. That's because all these what you have is actually on top of a piano, which we barely see the keyboard on there. I mean, on the keys on the Steinway. But how long you had that in your possession?
Let's see, I've had it about 8 years.
So
7-8 years. Yeah.
Imagine what the history might have been like if it's that old. Who's been playing on it before you have?
The fun thing about Steinways actually is they keep track of their stuff, so you can write to them and they'll tell you about what color it used to be and where it was first shipped on what specific date and to what store and in the country and all that.
Think only Steinway does that, or other companies might do that?
I don't know.
That's a pretty interesting thing to think about. That you can actually find out the family history.
Yeah. So but it's a really nice piano character, and you can hear the fabric in the felts on this one really nicely.
Have any of the songs that you recorded for your new album, American Canyon, have you used the Steinway in that somehow? Or
the Steinway, you can hear it at the end of Paper Angel, very obscured, and then you can hear it on the choruses of Waiting for the Knife. Actually, kind of an 80s treatment, so it's really close mic'd, really brightened up, and has a chorus effect on it.
Yeah,
almost that kind of Peter Gabriel, like Simple Minds, that real bright 80s piano tone. So there's sort of this crashing downbeat chords you hear during Waiting for the Knife.
Nice. So very very natural sound, but then you can play with it a little bit in the effects and in the mix and turn it into something that you're not quite expecting. So.
That's right. Yeah, you can warp it and take it anywhere.
That's interesting. And TR-8, what is that? Is that one of those Roland Boss, something like that?
Yeah, it's a Roland drum machine.
Oh yeah, that's wonderful. I like the colors on it. Yeah, not all great buttons. It's nice to look as well as touch. You can see all the lights and the pretty colors on it.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough of me screwing around here. The song you're going to play is Lightfield. What's that all about? What is this, a romantic song? Is this a serious song? What do we got here?
I think it's both. I mean, so Lightfield works on a few levels. And hey, you've been talking to me for a while, Dean. You know better than to ask me these questions. But, Lightfield is almost like a triple layer song. It describes a place following the Battle of American Canyon we were talking about earlier, where a group of people gets rescued into, and it's like another dimension. And then it also has to do with losing someone, like losing them forever. And then it also is written to be experienced as a love song, I would say. So it has sort of a platonic love and a romantic love, and then it also has a story and a place.
Yeah. So there's depth to it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's at least a few layers. Yeah, it's like how much can you get into a simple artifact? But yeah, Lightfield.
Well, good. I was just a little curious about that because, I always like to hear if there's anything interesting that we can think about as we're listening to the lyrics. And you guys are in for a treat because not only are the lyrics kind of cool to listen to, so is the instruments that he's going to be on. You gotta check this out. So how about I get out of the way and let you just do your thing?
Thanks, Dean.
All right, Matt, here we go. Matt Easton, everybody.
Lightfield, you throw the dice and you blow out the window to the place that we can't go. Lightfield, you throw the dice and you blow out the window to the place that we can't go. The place that we can't go. I feel you checking out. I wish you'd fight it. Mouth to mouth and mouth to stone. You wanna see oblivion, but we're almost safe. We're almost home. Lightfield, you throw the dice and you blow out the window to the place that we can't go. You throw the dice and you blow out the window You throw the dice and you blow out the window to the place that we can't go. To the place that we can't go. The light goes down and the wind comes up. And the lemon trees outside stare winter at our will to survive. I can't hope another day. I'll take grief's freedom. Brass to gold and gold to bone. Pneumonia in the winter sun, staring to the light of my own eyes. Lightfield,
There you go. That's my stupid joke. It took a minute for me to do that. Matt, that's wonderful. Let me turn the light back on here. Jeez. I enjoyed that a lot. And people are going to understand that that's a slightly different live version than you'll hear on this record.
Completely different.
Yeah, the other one's a little amped up. I'm glad that you did something. You chose to do that style. Beautiful. Yeah, you could actually slow down and listen to the lyrics, and I could hear things about lemon trees, and, and it's wonderful. And I tried to keep my mouth shut during it, so that made it even better. Thank you for doing that, Matt. Let's go ahead and set up, and we'll wrap up in the other side of the room. I appreciate that.
I'll switch back. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we're back. Thanks for doing that song. That was a wonderful version, and all we did was just sort of switch cameras and get you on the other mic. But you know what? What kind of room are you sitting in right now? Is this just where you decide to put your computer or your phones or something? Like, because I see you have instruments in the back. Is this?
Oh, right. Yeah. This is just the living room. No, I'm set up with the computer just for today here.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is sort of the living room, and
so this is not the Creative Central room that you put all your instruments in and everything when you're creating.
Right. Well,
something?
Actually, in some ways it is. I think this is sort of the hang around music room.
It's a piano room anyway, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. The piano's not going anywhere. It's permanently here, but
let me just move it to the other side. No, that won't work.
Yeah. The home studio is not much to look at, but it's very specific. It's downstairs, and this whole record was made in it probably, 12 by 12 with a slightly low ceiling. It's sort of a pine paneled room behind our garage, but that's all we use it for. We have a drum kit, and my son's actually a producer. Also, he does hip hop stuff mostly, and so it gets a lot of work. But yeah, we can, as long as it doesn't have to be pristine, it's just like a great kind of rock and roll demo studio, project studio.
Yeah. So your son has an ear and a hand for music as well, huh?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Both my kids do, for sure. Yeah. My daughter's a really great singer and pianist, and my son drums, and then plays, fretted stringed instruments very well, kind of like naturally. He's just really good at that. But he drums at school, drums in several bands, and then he's a great producer.
Oh, wonderful. It must be nice. You didn't push them into that. They got on this totally on their own, or did you just sort of introduce them to it? And
I'd say a lot of exposure, but also tons of intrinsic motivation on their parts.
Okay.
Tons. Yeah.
So how many people in the family? Is it just those two kids and you and
two kids and my wife and me.
That's great. So that was one of the things I didn't touch on. I normally would get into, what's it like at home for, what is, I'm not asking what does your wife do, but what is her role in all this? Does she support you? Is she also musical? Anything like that?
Yeah. Well, she's definitely music friendly, and an enormous support to all endeavors musical and artistic in the house. She's not a musician herself, but she is a music lover and a huge support to us. And
does she love your type of music?
She likes my music.
Good. That's a good.
She says so. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say she's an aficionado of sort of interest, like, blancmange. Like, you drop blancmange, you're gonna get a blank stare. Get it?
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's same in this house. I mean,
but she does love music generally, and we share that. As far as like it's valuable to us to see live music and performance, and for the kids and everything. She's 110% behind it.
That's good. Yeah. No, it's good to have that, because not necessarily. Now, my wife is one of those types. She had to sort of acquire a taste for some of the stuff that I introduced her to.
Gotcha.
And some she still will not go for, but right. Same thing. If I said something like, if I mentioned Cabaret Voltaire or Blancmange or whatever, the blank stare, she would just shake her head. There he goes again, talking about stuff I had no idea what he's talking about.
Right. The esoteric stuff isn't quite there.
No, but that's nice when you can get that's part of the fun of doing a show, when I can meet somebody like you who actually knows all these things. It reminds me, there was a kid I used to work to. I say kid, he's probably 40 now, but I'll just call him DJ Daniel. We'll use that name. DJ Daniel has a love for goth, anything from that period. And you wouldn't think so because, he probably was 10 years old when any of this stuff was going on, like Susie and the Banshees,
Right.
Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, Peter Murphy, Bauhaus, those things.
Yeah.
Anything that had to do with that. But then he knew everything there was to know about the new wave scene, the first wave type of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dark wave,
That's
first
amazing.
wave, old wave,
Yeah.
any of that. So,
Wow.
and
Yeah.
that was, and
He
it was
found
hard
his
to
thing.
stump him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was born out of time, but he found his thing.
Yeah. I said, I'll play name that tune because I was really good at that kind of thing. And he almost got me on a couple of them. He put Fat Gadget in there and I go like, I didn't recognize that song. Sorry, So it's like those things. My wife would go like, oh, I'm not even getting involved in this. If it was popular on the radio, that she'll, because what's nice is now Sirius XM, the radio, they have all these different stations.
Right. Yeah. You can get any like micro segment of genre and
yeah.
That's
so
cool.
I introduced her to that stuff. She would put up with it in the old days. Now she kind of appreciates it. So that's nice. Enough about me and my dumb stuff. But that was that's part of the reason I like bringing on artists that nothing against. You were talking about folk music earlier. I'm getting such a heavy diet of guests with the folk, and that's not really what I was raised on. But
Right.
I can appreciate it. Maybe some of the old school folk stuff, maybe from the old times, from
Right.
20s, 30s. And my dad introduced me to some stuff that happened in the 50s and 60s. So I enjoyed all that.
Right.
But it's still nothing that I wanted to create on my own or listen on though. But it's really refreshing when I get to hear your style of music and some other, heavy rock. And I want to introduce people to, more diverse styles, even if they are sort of that old school feel to them,
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Folk, it's a genre, but then it also speaks, I think, to the essentialism of the song. And I think that's something that I find specifically. I mean, it's not like I go out and like spend a lot of time listening to folk. It's that I really appreciate the pureness of it's a melody. It's a word system that might actually be simplistic.
Right.
And you got two chords and you're done. I mean, but I think it's the same thing with like listening to, you ever listen to like KRS-One?
Oh yeah. Like hip hop, old school hip hop stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, same thing, it's like, what do you need to build a chair? It's this kind of like category, of minimal completeness that I think is actually really intriguing and inspiring.
KRS-One, is that somebody in your son's encyclopedia of hip-hop?
Totally not. No, he would know who I'm talking about.
There you go. He'd be on Mount Rushmore, though. A lot of people have no idea who that is, even my age. But he's right there with Africa Bombata and the Grandmaster Flash and all those guys.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, I really loved him. And then Public Enemy did a whole new thing that really broadened, I think, but it was no longer folk music. when you
right. It changed the game a little bit there. Yeah. When we were talking, folk music is sort of an essential part of a lot of genres that you have no idea that these artists are actually doing folk music, kind of like blues, based rock, like the Beatles, Stones, and Led Zeppelin were all doing the blues, right? But they fit it to their personal taste and what was happening at that time.
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
Yeah. Like Cyndi Lauper, for instance, a lot of times you don't realize she was doing folk. She had a folk influence in there, especially when she would slow down some of those songs, right? And she get the dulcimer out, Yeah,
she was writing on dulcimer a lot, right?
Yeah, like she wrote time after time, right? So she would do that. She'd slow that down, put the dulcimer, and then she had fiddles going in the background, and all of a sudden it sounds folk, when
Right,
it didn't
right.
when it didn't on She's So Unusual. So that's a lot of fun.
No, she's a mega talent.
Yeah, absolutely. Same thing with Annie Lennox. When you find out that they have this dynamic, this range, this octave range, that you have no idea.
Yeah.
Cyndi Lauper has that weird accent, so that you don't. When all of a sudden she starts to sing and she comes alive with it. So
yeah.
All right, so there I go off on a little tangent there. I appreciate that. Now I know another Berkeley band that I can gravitate to because when I thought of Berkeley, I always thought of like the Motels or even wasn't Green Day part of that scene up there a little bit? And
Totally. Yeah. That's the
who else? Counting Crows. There you go. There's one. There's a Berkeley band.
Definitely.
I'm trying to think of bands other people have heard of because if I say Operation Ivy or one of those,
right?
People when you hang. Oh, I had the drummer for Creedence Clearwater. I know they hung around Berkeley a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, many decades apart. I went to the same high school.
Really?
As the Creedence guys. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Which high school was that again? It's
El Cerrito High.
There you go. That's the one.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a whole thing. You were talking about. You saw some of them. You'll have to check him out. He's got some cool things to say too. Anyway, enough of that. Now I don't know how to wrap up the show because we're just I'm having a good time talking with you, Matt. This has been a real treat, and thank you very much for your rendition of Lightfield. That's a keeper. That's a viral clip I'll hope to make later.
Oh yeah, great. I hope it came out.
Yeah, but we've been talking for. Remember I said that I tried to keep you on for an hour. Here we've gone about 6 hours. I think I'm looking here. No, right. Hopefully the time flew though for you. I really.
Oh, it was fantastic to be on, and really. I like your show. I've caught a couple of the other episodes and great stuff. And I really love the entry point of songs, but also creative life is so rich. It's so essential, I think, actually, and it's really fun to talk to somebody who's pushing that idea too and supporting people chasing that idea too.
Yeah.
And it was
thank you.
Pleasure to be on, man. Thank you very much. And people who want to learn more about us, of course, thejennything.com, and we're out there on Facebook and Insta, and please check us out on Spotify and Apple. We have some singles out now, and then June 18th, the album American Canyon drops.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I think June 18th you said. So this is a great thing. I really appreciate that. It's not too short, not too long. It's not an EP, but it's 8 songs, and they're not long songs. They're very palatable and easy to digest. It's a wonderful thing. If you like that kind of music that we were discussing all this time, sort of that 80s synth new wave pop, but then again, these are fresh original songs coming from Matt and his buddy Shum and the other two. Name those two guys real quick so I don't ignore them, because I don't want them to feel left out of this. Yeah,
Mike Phillips on drums, Mike Phillips, and then Aaron Becker on bass.
Aaron Becker on bass.
Yeah.
Both you guys didn't mean to leave you out of the conversation, but hey, Matt's here, and this is who I get to talk to. So thank you very much, Matt. You've been a stellar guest. This is going to take me some time to edit because Matt and I seem to want to make sure we get everything just right.
A little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
No, but at the same time, I'm not saying he's a perfectionist, but he wants to do it just right. But at the same time, he seems to create with some gusto and lets it fly when it's important, right? You got to keep that going.
I think that's the takeaway. Just let it rip.
Anyway, Matt Easton of the Jenny Thing. Hey, it's been a real pleasure. I want to thank you a final time for coming on and sharing your stories and great insight and your music. And I'm really a big fan of this album, American Canyon, due out for release on June 18th, 2021. You can hear all kinds of great stuff in this album, and I'm a big fan of the Jenny Thing. And you, Matt, so thank you for coming on. Big clap.
Thanks so much. It was a pleasure to be here, and thank you very much.
All right. God bless you. You take care of yourself, and all my best to the family. May you keep going for those, dreams and aspirations that we've been talking about in this podcast. It's exciting, and it's been a pleasure to get to know you. Thank you again.
Thanks so much.
Okay.
All the best to you, Dean.
Have a great night and take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks.